Hey everyone, you're listening to the Simple Electronics Podcast, and I'm your host, Dan from the Simple Electronics YouTube channel. And with me today, I have absolutely nobody special. It's been a hell of a busy April. Yeah, I almost got confused on what month it is. It's been hella busy. And so I'm just by myself here because I didn't plan for any guests to be on. And if it wasn't for this solo episode, you'd have no episode at all. I think some of you would be okay with that, but I think my core listeners would be a little bit disappointed, which is, it's good to think about that. So what have I been up to? Well, let me start from the beginning. As a lot of you know, my day job of teaching at the college has not been stable as of the last year and a half or so. And so I've been looking for a way to replace that because I think in the end, teaching still is where my passion actually lies. Because I think on YouTube, it's nice to be able to teach people things about electronics or just, have people hang out with me while I do electronics, but that's not what I know the most of. I mean, I'm okay at sort of beginner and hobbyist level electronics, but what I'm really good at is automotive stuff. I have been teaching, the automotive profession now for almost 4 years, maybe 5 years, and I have been working as a professional in the automotive tech field since 2006, late 2006. So it's been quite a while now. So that is really my passion. But in order to make a YouTube channel about that, I would need space. I would need somewhere to work from. And especially up here in Canada, it's too cold in the winters to work outside. Plus, I don't really want to work outside my house. I like my privacy. And I do have a garage, but it's too small for anything meaningful. I have a 1989 CRX in there right now. And it's so that's a tiny, tiny car and the garage is filled. So yeah, I cannot really do teaching videos on automotive stuff effectively. And so I'm looking for a different kind of teaching job. Now there's a few options. I have my credentials to be an automotive tech. And I have sort of the experience of teaching at the college level. But right now, there's a huge demand for teaching at the high school level, what we call, tech teachers. Usually there's a few different things, but typically it's auto shop, it's manufacturing. Auto shop, they call it transportation tech now because it's kind of more encompassing. Manufacturing, which is more 3D printing, CNCing, but also manual milling, grinding, filing, that kind of stuff, metalworking, sort of, and woodworking. So those are kind of the three areas that tech teachers teach. And there is a huge demand for tech teachers here, especially in the Ottawa area. I've been told that for a single school board, of which we have 4, I believe, maybe more than 4, but a single school board said they're going to need 2 to 3 tech teachers in the next 1 to 3 years. So that's just one of the school boards. And the other school boards, it seems like the demand is the same. So that's great, right? But as it turns out, I can teach college because it's teaching adults. To teach younger kids like high school, you need a special education degree, a bachelor in education, to teach here in Canada. Maybe just in Ontario, but definitely here in Ontario, but I think throughout Canada as well. So it's a BEd. Now to get that BEd, it's a 2-year university level program. So I guess college level if you're in the States. But the issue with that is that it costs a lot of money. Maybe not as much as the US system. But the second thing is there are no universities here in Ottawa, where I live, that have the BEd program for tech teachers. So if I wanted to get in, I could get into any of the universities here in Ottawa to teach, math, science, English, French, whatever, all those things. But I would need a bachelor's degree. So I would need a post-secondary degree, which I have most of. I've almost done my degree in criminology when I started teaching in automotive. But I don't have that degree. It's almost done, but it's not done. The credits may be expired by now, and it wouldn't let me teach tech like I would want to. I don't really have the interest in teaching, math or English or geography or those things. I mean, I wouldn't mind teaching science, but I'm definitely underqualified for that. So there are a few universities, one in New Brunswick. There's one in basically Kingston area, so about 2 hours southwest of me. There's one in Toronto, and there's one across the border in the States. Now, the problem with those is that, to move to go in person in the classes in Kingston, I basically need somewhere to stay. Now, there is a part-time program as well, but they require you to come on campus on the weekends and throughout the entire summer. But the summers are the only times that I have work at the college, which, if you remember, that's my only real income these days. So it's difficult, right? So basically for the last month or so, I've been jumping through hoops. I've visited high school. I did a full day with a high school teacher, like a tech teacher. I went back in there to help him with his students on another occasion. I've emailed all the principals in my area, and basically everyone said I was SOL, shit out of luck. However, the teacher I went to help for a day, which is all the way across town from me, but that's okay. He convinced his principal to email my credentials to the school board, and they got the ball rolling on getting me on the list for unqualified supervisors. So basically, if you don't have your bachelor's, you can get on this list where you're not technically a substitute teacher, but you're an unqualified supervisor, right? So what they would do is, let's say a teacher calls in sick, which everyone has been because of human malware around here. We'll talk about that in a moment. So you get on that list. A teacher calls in sick, for example. What they'll do then is they'll post the job to anybody who's working currently at the high school. And then if nobody can take the job, they'll post that job to everybody who's on the qualified list for substitute teaching. And then if none of those people are available, then it would become available to the emergency unqualified backup people, which would be me. Now, the pay rate for that is basically minimum wage. I think I've done the math. If I sacrificed a day working at McDonald's versus going in and doing that, I think I'd end up with more pay at McDonald's, but it is fewer hours at the school. It'd probably be 4 periods. I think it's between 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., something like that. So it's not a full day, but still, it's kind of pitiful. So this is something I'm going to do sort of part-time in between now and when I start back at the college, just to get my feet wet, just to talk to the students a bit, trying to get a feel for the job, become more comfortable for the job. But that does come with a really big downside, is that I'm not allowed in the workshops with the students as an unqualified supervisor. So I have all these years of experience in an auto shop, for example, a professional setting. However, because I don't have my Bachelor of Education, I have to sit these students down that are expecting to go into the shop into a classroom and do something theoretical. And with the time I was spending with that teacher, that high school teacher, these students are not interested in anything theoretical. Like, they take these classes so they can, learn stuff, yes, but more so they can manipulate things, so they can mess with things with their hands, work with their hands, shut off their brains for a minute, from the homework and the high school drama and stuff, and just turn bolts. Like, that's what they want to do. And in fact, the enthusiasm they have to do that is it's invigorating. It's awesome. They want to get in there and they want to go. So if I get that posting for the day, they pay me, close to minimum wage. I think it might even be minimum wage. I'm not sure. I haven't done the math on that yet. But minimum wage 8-hour shift is definitely more money. But then I have to take these students, and tell them, yeah, today your teacher called in sick. I'm not qualified according to the school board. So we're going to have to sit in this classroom and do whatever their teacher had left for them. Or if their teacher didn't leave anything, which they were supposed to, then I have to make something up for, an hour and a quarter or whatever it is. So it's like, it's crazy that I could be in charge of a class and I'll have to have them do things I have no idea how to do, like, sit there and be quiet and teach or whatever, instead of taking them in the shop where I'm super comfortable and have them do something meaningful. I understand why. Like, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's funny that they'll take me and throw me in this situation when I think the situation could be better a different way. But anyways, that's another story. So after that, I'll have to decide if I join a program to get a Bachelor of Education. If I do, that means that I won't be able to work at the college because it'll be like a remote campus thing during the school year. And then in the summer, starting, something early June or, I think June, basically I would have to move into like the campus. And here's the crazy part. Because Kingston is 2 hours away from me, and then 3 hours further is Toronto, with a population that is something around 4 times as big as Ottawa's. The online stuff happens, around the Kingston campus. So maybe I have to go there a couple of weekends during the year. But for the summer, they don't use the Kingston campus. They use the Toronto campus because there are many more teachers going through training in Toronto than Ottawa. And so in the summers, I'll have to literally move to the most expensive city, second most expensive city to live in Canada. So I think I live in the 4th most expensive right now. Ottawa is number 4. I think Vancouver is number 1, Toronto is number 2, and Montreal is number 3, and then, Ottawa number 4. So basically, I'll have to go not 2 hours away where the college is, or the university is, but 5 hours away where Toronto is, where the university will be doing their summer courses. So it's going to be a big change. And I think even worse than that is that, so I'll have to spend for the tuition, then I'll have to spend for the travel every once in a while, travel down to Kingston, and then I'll have to spend to live in, somewhere in Toronto for, what is it, June, July, August, like 3 months every year, 2 years. However, when I finish 1 year of this program, then I'll be eligible to work as a full-time shop teacher, but under a exemption, like under an exemption letter. So I don't know if how it works in the States. I know quite a few teachers are severely underpaid in the US, but in Canada, the wages are not that bad. I don't know what the starting wage is, but I think it's somewhere around $60 to $70, maybe $80,000 a year, something like that for the first couple of years. But after 4 or 5 years, it's not uncommon to be making $100,000. And this is a gross. It's not net salary. So obviously there's still taxes and deductions and stuff on top of that. But what it would bring for me is stability in the long run. So I have to sacrifice sort of income and stability. Well, right now there's no stability, but income and time and effort now. But then I might be able to be more stable in the future, which is it's a good thing. But at the same time, like, I much, much rather teach at the college level. So the other option here is that I send out resumes Canada-wide looking for full-time position as an automotive professor in a college. The bad part about that is that there are way, way more disgruntled automotive mechanics in the trade than there are trade schools hiring, basically. The industry hasn't been great up here for a while. You can make a lot of money, but it's kind of one of those things where the more dishonest you are, the more money you have the potential to make. And the shops that allow you to be the most dishonest tend to make the most money. And I can't do that. It's really not me. I can't really do that. So I already have a hard time making decent money in the trade. But on top of that, I have to find a shop that would allow me to make lots of money and remain honest. So it's like two negatives. And I know that's more like a me issue. I just can't do it. Like, I see my colleagues sometimes replacing brake pads at like 5 millimeters remaining when the legal limit's 1.6 millimeters. But even so, when you see cars once a year, which is pretty much what a lot of our customers do, you typically want to replace their brake pads around 3 millimeters, but you tell them, you say, you still got a mil left. You probably won't make it to the next time that you're in the shop based on your mileage. So you want to do them now, or do you want to come back in a month when they're actually like need to be replaced? And most of my customers will say, no, replace them now. Like, I don't want to do a special trip just for that. I'm already here. But I see some people, pushing the limits on that, and already that grates me. And there are other shops which they're so predatory, like 6 millimeter and below, they'll tell the customer they need brakes. No more explanation than that. So that's not what I want to do. So basically, I will be either looking into working for the high schools, which will take me, it'll be a journey, or I will be looking for employment elsewhere. I've already had a chat with my wife, and I think she's okay with moving. Actually, I think she wants we both do, but I think she's more pining for a house upgrade. Our house is very small. And so if we were to move, it would be more likely to move to a smaller town, not a bigger town, a smaller town where the competition for jobs in the teaching field would be less. And so with the equity built in our house, which is not a lot, but because our house, like the housing market went up like crazy, makes for a considerable amount. We would be able to take that and, put a sizable down payment on a house that's, on a bigger property and whatever in a much shittier town. The big downside with that, again, is going to be like the stress of looking for a place and moving. Driving potentially 8 hours away to do a job interview for a college that may not hire me, those kinds of things. And also, being in Canada, the internet is not stable everywhere you go. There are still many, many towns where the fastest internet is like DSL. Like, it's like not dial-up, but also not like high speed, maybe 10 megabit down type thing, which would be impossible for my wife to work it would be very difficult for me to work because I do lots of online stuff, right? YouTube. So that's not ideal, but it's stuff we have to think about. So those are the two options. Now, obviously, the third option would be that YouTube picks up in a serious way. I don't see that happening. I've built myself a nice little community here. I love you guys when you comment and whatever, subscribe. But looking at the numbers, the growth just isn't there. So I can't rely on making income through YouTube. I have been lucky. I've scored a couple sponsors over the times. I guess PCB Way is kind of the biggest monetary contributor to the channel. And then next up would be Patreon. And then way below those two is AdSense revenue. But yeah, I just can't use that. Like that doesn't pay my mortgage, basically. Altogether, it's starting to get close, but it doesn't really. And so, yeah, YouTube, ideally, I would, my channel would get big, and then I'd be able to fund bigger projects, which then, makes me grow faster, and I'd have like space to do like mechanical builds that I can apply electronics to. If you go on my website, there's a dreams section, which is one of the projects I think one of the projects I want to work on is on there. I need space for. But I mean, that's not going to happen, and I'm okay with that. It's going to, YouTube is going to be something I'll be doing in the long run. It won't be something that I'll be able to pay my mortgage with, and that's all right. So yeah, that's what's going on with career-wise. Also, while I've been busy, last week I scored a 1-week contract with my college. So I went back, worked 1 week, and then I was done. And on top of that, it's not even that many hours because the Monday was Easter Monday. So basically I worked 4 days for my college. I'm really glad I got that contract because obviously not making much of an income, it's always nice. But yeah, basically that's all I'm doing until the 14 weeks I'm going to be doing starting in June. And so it's been skinny because I think the last time I've worked at the college before that was last August. I think it was August. So yeah, it's been a while. I went in there and I'm like, oh wow, I feel like a guest now and not really an employee. So that was good. But that was also high school students. They're going through an apprenticeship program here that Ontario offers to kind of get more people into the trade. And in fact, that's also the program I custom designed with another teacher, the one I'll be running in June. That's also designed to get a lot more students into the trade. It's just difficult because there's not a lot of positives at the moment. So yeah, so that took up a whole week. I mean, it was only 4 days, but the amount of like behind the scenes work that goes into being a teacher is pretty huge. And especially when you don't know what you're going to be teaching until they ask you to. So I do have some material prepared, but not necessarily all of it. And I do know some professors that keep their same material over and over and over. But every single time I give a course, I update it. I go looking for more information, more in-depth information. I go adding, I like to give YouTube links. I also like to give, especially when it's the high school students, I like to give them sort of a slice of life, quote unquote, links where they can go check out videos and articles and stuff that are by people inside the trade, just to give them an idea what it's like to work in the profession. So my favorite thing to post is I tell them to go on to reddit.com/r/justrolledintotheshop. It's a great subreddit where people like me who see interesting things in their work days will take photos and post them up there and share the stories about what's going on and whatever. There's actually sort of like a one-upping contest going on right now about what's the craziest firearm that people have found inside cars. So heavily U.S. US skewed people, because in Canada here, if you left a pistol on the seat of your car or like in your center console, the RCMP would arrest you like immediately. It's not that we don't have a big gun culture here. We do have a gun culture, but not a big one. So yeah, I tell the students to go to these places, and I always update my material. And that's not something that's necessary. I mean, the curriculum hasn't changed since 2010. But I like to set my students up for success by giving them, the best, the most up-to-date tools. And also I teach to what they need to know for their license exam. Because once you're done 3 semesters with me or with the college, you then have to go write your license exam. And it's heavily based on the stuff that you need to have seen in school and ought to have seen in your workplace. So it can get pretty intense. So I want to make sure my students are ready for those things. And on top of that, there's always, like, in every group, there's like a couple of them who are really, really interested. Like, this is their life type thing. And so I try to make sure to feed them the extra information that they're looking for, because I tell them from the beginning, I'm like, I'm not better than you guys, because I'm not. I'm truly not better than my students. I said the only difference between you and I is somewhere around 15, 16 years of experience. So I said, if you don't tap into the experience that I have, then you're kind of wasting your time. You can kind of do this from home, right? We do have practical stuff, so it's not like they can do all of it from home, but the in-class stuff, they can read their textbooks. So I use my experience to flavor the content, because that's what I have different than the textbook. That's what they have the textbook already. And what I'm teaching them in class includes the stuff in the textbook. But what I add, what I can offer that's different than that is my experience. So when we talk about, for example, diagnosing electrical circuits. So the textbook has fairly decent guides. They say, what's an open, what's a short, and stuff like that. But I teach them, how quickly you can just go over these things to make sure that everything works. So, for example, if a window motor doesn't go up nor down, right? Check the fuse first thing. If the fuse is blown, what do you most likely have? Well, most likely it's a short circuit, because a short circuit doesn't have enough resistance, pulls like nearly unlimited current, blows the fuse. But if the fuse is intact, your motor's not short circuited. So what's the next thing you can do? Well, you can check from the end of the fuse, or from the end of the control side at least, you can check from there to ground for resistance. If you have a high resistance, well, maybe that's because the motor is corroded, or a connector is corroded, or something, towards the open side of things. So the textbook doesn't really give you like tips and tricks. They just give you sort of the basics, and then it's up to you to apply them yourself. And so, yeah, that's where I pride myself in teaching. Like, I just flavor the content with my experience. I don't know if that makes any sense or anything. So that took a whole week of the month. And then I have to do my taxes this month. And obviously this year, so 2021 was a year where a lot of my income comes, or a lot percentage-wise of my income comes from YouTube. So it's like independent income. And so it's taking me a really long time to track down all the sources of income I had, because it all comes in piecemeal. So just to let you know a little bit what I'm going through here, I get Google AdSense every month or so. If you make less than $100, I think it's Canadian $100, in the month, they don't pay you. You have to make $100. So I don't get paid every single month. I get paid, every second for sure, but not every month. So I have to go track down those payments. Then I make Patreon. And again, Patreon charges you a fee when you pull out money, and it's 1% with a minimum of $1. So I let it pile up until there's at least $100 in there, and then I pull it out. So there's that. I got PCBWay sponsored some of my videos last year, 2021, and so I got that. I have affiliate schemes for eBay, Banggood, for Amazon, and for AliExpress. So all the little payments that come in, that roll in from that, you got to add them up. I got some sponsored stuff sent to me, so that has to be declared as income as well. And then you have like expenses, so like cell phone, internet, all the AliExpress, eBay, Amazon purchases that are specifically for the channel, they all have to be totaled up as well. And then I got my regular income from the shop where I work on Saturdays. I got my regular income from the college. And although they're not huge amounts of income, they still count as income. So you do have to claim them. And so all this together, and then you have to remove all of the expenses, but not all the expenses can be claimed at 100%. So for example, computer parts, I believe it is half. You can only claim at half, but it's a depreciating asset. And so you have to claim it as, I think it's a 5-year span. So it's, 20% per year. And then you can only claim half of that. So 10% of the purchase price. And then you got to carry it forward to the next year's. It's, it's a mess. It's a whole thing. And I don't have an accountant, mainly because I can't afford one. I'm really like shoestring budget here. And so I have to do all this by hand. And then, I have only a couple days left to file before it's late. So that was really important for me. Another thing I've been up to is making videos. And specifically this month, the only videos I have to make are the sponsored videos because they need to get done or else I don't get paid. And then I'll fall even further behind in my income. So again, just inside baseball here. If you don't like to hear these kinds of things, that's fine. But I mean, I think some of you do like the inside baseball stuff. So PCBWay sponsors me. They're the only paying sponsor I have. And so aside from the Patreons. And so they do a per video thing, or they sponsor me per video. And actually, it's not even per video. It's per project. So what I've been doing is racking my brain these last couple months because, literally I need to make income to make meaningful projects that I can build into PCBs and then make videos on that. And I say meaningful because I'm not really interested in cranking out content for money. That's not the goal here. The goal here is that I have to use this sponsorship to make projects that I wouldn't otherwise, or to make projects that I would get, whatever, like 1,000 views on, and make $2 in ad revenue type thing, and transform them into, sponsored videos. So there's a couple coming up pretty shortly here, but the ones that released last month are great examples of this. So I made a board to put 18650 batteries on a board and put in a battery management system PCB because I was interested in learning about how the BMS functions, the different functions of the BMS, and whether or not it'd be able to charge the batteries within a certain imbalance, and whether it just cut off one cell and continued to charge other cells and those kinds of things. And so instead of making a mess of wires on my bench in a way that I could have, accidentally shorted stuff out, because I have done that in the past, it just makes sense to build it all onto a PCB, because not only does it work my KiCad skills, and not only does it make it safer, but it also makes it, accessible to you guys, for example. I'm sure a lot of you wouldn't mind just putting point-to-point wiring and stuff like that, but having it all organized on a board and all properly laid out, and with some thought put into it on how you can use the cells with or without the BMS and stuff like that, I found it compelling. I found it to be a really good video to make, whether or not I had a sponsorship. But the fact that I was able to get a sponsorship for that, which also lets me, helps me pay my bills, I think that's the type of win-win I'm looking for every single sponsored video I do. And so if you go back and check my sponsored content, you'll see that it either involves a product I'm interested in, or it lets me explore a concept that I'm interested in a different way, in a more organized fashion, or simply in a way that I would have done without the sponsorship, but now it makes things easier. So even the LED lights, which I'll talk about in a moment here. So last month I ordered some aluminum PCBs from PCBWay and soldered on some LEDs. Let me tell you, that video, I built those LED panels to replace my blinking LEDs on top of my bench. But I had a blast. It was so fun. This was the first time I did solder paste, squeegeeing solder paste across a stencil and then putting the LEDs on the hot plate. I mean, it was fantastic fun. It was amazing. So much so that in the near future, I have ordered more LEDs. They have come in, and I'll be designing different boards and ordering some more. And I think I'm going to outfit my entire shop with these light panels because it's fantastic fun. It makes a cool video. It demos PCBWay's product, right? The stencil was fantastic, and so were the aluminum-backed PCBs were incredibly performant. I couldn't even overheat them. So, I mean, this is like win, 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 right? It makes a decent video. It's a cool project to work on. I had to design the footprints for those LEDs myself. It was lots of fun. It'll serve as lighting for my shop. Basically everywhere in my shop, I'm going to be putting them. And because it's sponsored, so maybe I didn't make a lot of money off that, but it definitely paid for the LEDs and a bit extra, and the boards are free. So basically, I get subsidized lighting for my shop, which is great because that means I also get to sort of increase the video quality. These are 90 plus CRI LEDs. I'll get to increase the video quality, which you guys will be able to see in the future too. I mean, I have these big plans on increasing the video quality in my workflow, but a few things need to change first. I need to make some space. I need to build a set. Yeah, build a set. I did say that. I mean, it's no secret. Like, I'm working on that turntable in order to, spin things so you can see them 360 degrees. I want to change add more B-roll, basically, so you guys can see better. Add camera angles and all these kinds of things that these sponsorships mean that it'll be more accessible to me, which should equal better content, which should equal you guys, more of you guys will want to subscribe and watch. I mean, we'll see if it happens in the end, but if it does, it does, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But that's the plan, at least. I mean, at some point, I need my own unique hook on my content, and I am not skilled or knowledgeable, I should say, like Big Clive, Julian Eilert, Dave Jones. It's just not me. I don't have that, those years and years of institutional knowledge in electronics. I'm coming at it more in a creative sense and more in a discovery type sense, right? I'm trying to discover things and have fun with stuff. And so I think increasing my video quality will allow someone with less knowledge than a Dave Jones or a Big Clive to sort of set himself aside. That's the goal. And hopefully I'll be able to design some cool stuff, make some cool designs and stuff like that. So you guys can check out these videos and hopefully be inspired to do your own stuff, because that's another thing. So I did make three projects that I think are compelling, that are going to be releasing very shortly for sponsored by PCBWay. Should I spoil them now? Yeah, I think 40 minutes or so into the podcast, I think I can spoil them. So one of them is a battery powered PIR sensed light. Basically what it is in the basement down here, I have to turn on the main lights. So just, the ceiling lights, at a switch near the stairs for my workshop. And then I walk into my workshop and then I flip on the studio lights, level 1 of the studio lights, those LEDs you see above my workbench. I flip those on and then I walk back and I flip off the main lights, because just those LEDs, relatively high CRI. I have 80 CRI ones right now, and the LED panels that I'll be replacing them with are 90. So CRI is color rendering index. The higher, the better, and also the more expensive. But anyways, they're beautiful LEDs. So that's the main lights I have on all the time. And then I turn on two sort of video lights to do videos. But I don't want to turn on the main lights. I don't want to turn on the ceiling light, because I have to walk back and turn it off anyways. And it's way too dark down here to have no light. So what I used to do is I used to keep an LED on, like an LED strip from a Kickstarter I backed a long time ago. It's called Klauf lighting. But anyways, I wasn't happy with having a light on all the time. It doesn't make sense. So what I decided to design is these battery-powered PIR sensed lights. They use the 1 watt or 3 watt Luxian Star type LEDs. And the PIR just triggers a transistor, which triggers that light. And it's all powered by an 18650 with battery protection on a TP4056 module. So super simple. A lot of you have these parts in your junk bin already. Salvaged 18650s, the TP4056 modules. I have affiliate links, so I know how many you guys are buying them. And you can stick this on the wall with 2-sided tape. And honestly, it's well over 2 weeks now, probably close to 3 weeks since the prototype has been lit in my basement here. And I don't even have an LDR on the PIR sensor. So it's not even, when I turn on the lights, it doesn't even stop turning on the 1 watt LED. And it's still going on a single charge of batteries, and it wasn't even full charge. So it's lasting a very long time. And what's nice is the cell is removable. So you can pop the cell out and put another cell in and just charge it away from the thing. So, you see what I mean? Like using my sponsorship to solve problems and make compelling projects. So that's one of them. Another one is I made a shield. The first time I ever make a shield, this one goes on top of an Uno or a Mega. And it basically adds transistor outputs to each digital pin. So I think there's 14 digital pins on an Uno, D0 to D13. And I put a 2N3904 surface mount transistor on each one of those pins, as well as a 1K ohm resistor and some LEDs, some 0805 surface mount LEDs. And I hand soldered the whole thing, and it went just fine. And for the video, I show sequencing a whole bunch of those 1 watt LEDs. So basically, you can output enough current to turn on and make function these 1 watt LEDs just by using this shield. So I found that really cool too, because now you have something that slots on top of your micro, and you can run heavier loads like relays or whatever. You can even run 12 volt devices, because I've broken out the raw input, the raw voltage input of the Uno, And so you can power a 12 volt LED and put the 12 volts to the raw input, and then the Uno will regulate the 12 down to 5 for itself and for the transistor, and all the transistor will do is switch the 12 volt LED. So you can basically, I've increased the capabilities of this Uno just by making a shield for it, which I found pretty cool myself. I might make a different version in the future using through-hole parts, because I know a lot of you folks are way more comfortable with through-hole stuff. And I'll probably add screw terminals everywhere instead of just using the... I basically broke out a couple of rows of pin headers so you guys can use whatever you want, but I understand that screw terminals might be better. I think binding posts would be a little bit too extreme. That'd be huge. Like, what's the point of a shield at that point? If the Uno just becomes a shield, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, you can run, I mean, every digital pin now should be able to run about 250 milliamps for sure, but maybe up to half an amp per pin without damaging the Uno, which is pretty neat. The third project I made, trying to think back, the third project I made was the version 2 of the auto doorbell ringer. So basically that's a commission project. My customer has been waiting patiently for way too long, and I finally finished it. And so now I just need to build up the last unit. He wants 2 units. So just need to build up the last unit and then ship it off to him. But yeah, basically it's a PCB that takes a DigiSpark, a PIR sensor, and a microwave sensor, and a relay now. And basically it just dings the doorbell every time the PIR and the microwave sensor are triggered. Now, the reason why we wanted both sensors is that I think the microwave sensor is sensitive to like blowing leaves and stuff like that, whereas the PIR is not. But also, I believe the PIR, there was something with the PIR why it wouldn't just want that. I think it's affected by really bright sunshine or something. But anyways, it'll basically eliminate false triggering because both sensors needs to be triggered. And all it is for the Arduino code is it looks at digital input 0. And if digital input 0 is high and digital input 1 is high, then it sends a high on digital pin 2. So 0 and 1 are high, digital pin 2 gets a high, which then triggers a relay through an opto sensor, an opto coupler, and that just shorts the button on the front of this wireless doorbell thing, which then just sends a signal inside. It's all handled after that. And this is powered by just a 12 volt jack, basically. So basically, he has a outdoor plug nearby. Plug in the 12 volt transformer, and then the wire is going to come up into the box, going to get zip tied for strain relief. The box has a little bit of a drain at the bottom because according to Julian Eilert, even those waterproof boxes will still breathe because of temperature changes will make pressure changes. And so if there's any bit of moisture on the outside, when the temperature drops, which is where condensation happens, the moisture will get sucked in basically by the vacuum created inside, and then it's stuck in there, and then it'll condense on the top and whatever. So the best strategy, as far as I know, is to leave a small hole at the bottom. And so there is going to be a small hole at the bottom where his wire is going to come through. And basically with the zip tie holding the wire in there, and he can make a knot in the wire too if he wants, there won't be a lot of space for anything to crawl up in there. But if the box sweats, the water should drip down and leave the box through that hole. And then that pinhole at the bottom actually becomes a forced drain because water with surface tension will pool around the cable that's coming in that hole. It won't come out. But when the temperature rises, the pressure will rise inside the box and force the water out. And so that's pretty neat. Plus it's at the bottom, so nothing should be able to weep inwards. That's the theory. If there's any issues with it, I might just do a redesign and 3D print a better box with an S-shaped drain or something. But for now, that's it. So that is my month really of April. So between, dealing with the college, dealing with the high schools, trying to figure out what's going on with my future, working for the college, taxes, which are still not done, but will be done shortly, and building the 3 sponsored videos for the month so that I can try to pay my mortgage. That's why it's been nuts. And couple with that, the weather here. So today it's actually 2 degrees Celsius. So what is that? 40 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that. If you're in US, Libya, or Myanmar. It's actually been warmer than that before, like 10 to 12 degrees. But today it snowed again. But as the weather gets good, I have to go in the backyard and clear up the backyard. And that has been put to the side. There's just, I don't have time. I have been asked multiple times to work on my parents' car. I simply don't have time to work on their car. So that's coming very shortly. Probably this week, I'll have to go there, swap my mom's tires, and do her brake service for the year. So that's another time demand. I'm going to have to fix my wife's car. I thought it needed an alternator. I didn't really take much time to diagnose it because the troubleshooting for an alternator on a Honda, because most of the circuitry is in the alternator. If you put a load on the battery and the alternator is not charging, typically you just replace the alternator. But it is indeed possible that the trigger, which comes from the PCM, the car's computer, it is possible that wire is borked. Because what we did is we ordered an aftermarket alternator. A Honda one, an OEM one, would have cost $650. The aftermarket one cost under $200. But it came back with the exact same problem. So, because I have experience in these kinds of things, typically when it comes back with the exact same problem, that means the part you replaced wasn't faulty in the first place. However, there are those situations where the aftermarket ones are remanufactured, and it's possible that when they put it on their test bench, it didn't make the problem, but it had the exact same problem as the OEM one, and they just cleaned up the case and, sold it back to you. So it could be either of those things. So I've got the full troubleshooting tree instead of the step one, and I'm going to go through it. Now I might make this into a video because I can kind of point my camera directly to the engine bay and not have to worry about you guys seeing where I live. So I might make the video on the diagnostics and going over what we're going to be looking at, in the service manual. I'm going to pull out the wiring diagram and stuff and show you what we're going to test and where. So if I do make that video, it will be on the Dan Fixes Cars YouTube channel. So don't expect any greatness. Don't expect the video to be done anytime soon, because although I do need to fix that car very soon, I definitely don't have the time to fix it. So I'll have to make time, and then the time to edit that video. And it's completely new genre, and it's on a YouTube channel that nobody is subscribed to. I don't know how many subscribers, but probably very few. I'm going to see if I can switch live here. 17 subscribers, right? So obviously my time is better spent making YouTube videos for Simple Electronics instead of that. But anyways, it's something I need to do. So I plan on doing it. And if you do want to see it, that's where it's going to be. And so, yeah, this month is going to be nuts. Probably going to spill into the first week of next month. But after that, my goal is to ramp up video production. As you guys know, YouTube being my main source of income, that's where I'm going to be focusing. I'm going to have a month or so, almost 2 months before I start working again full time. So I need to take advantage. I need to make lots of videos and make lots of meaningful videos. That means the big things I'm going to be aiming for are going to be the big solar project. So that means cleaning out my sort of workshop room, making a spot to put the batteries, my massive batteries, wiring in some wires to go all the way to the backyard from where my workshop is, and then putting up the solar panels I already have up there, and then trying desperately to convince some solar company, some eco company, some type of green energy company to send me panels. So I can basically the plan is to make a basic video, like this is the kind of system you can build with parts you have laying around. So probably, like a deep cycle or just a car battery. You'll see when I'm there. The wiring going to the back that I have, plus a very inexpensive solar panel. I will build that system and show you the outputs. Then I'm going to upgrade it a bit. I have those massive deep cycle batteries, so I'm going to upgrade with that. I'm going to see if I can put 2 solar panels in series, even though they're not well matched. See if we can get more output out of that. And then the plan would be to upgrade to a lithium iron phosphate battery, LiFePO4, that kind of battery. And the reason why I want one of those batteries is because you can disconnect it from your tie system, right? Let's say all your batteries are in parallel. You can disconnect it, and you can take these relatively light batteries and bring them on the road with you with an inverter, so you can take your free, quote unquote, free solar energy with you, no matter where you go. And even like corded tools, I don't know about you guys, but at my place, I don't have any exterior outlets in the front of my house at all. 0. The closest exterior outlet I have is in the back of my garage. So take this battery and put it on the front lawn with an inverter is way more convenient than running a giant extension cable from the back of my garage, basically. So it's these kinds of things I want to do. And plus the other upgrade would be to check the effectiveness of a couple of solar panels in series, because if you put them in parallel, you kind of need to upgrade your wires too. So that's going to be one of the things. Another thing I want to do is take some of that free energy, right, the solar energy, and put it on a boat. So a lot of you do know that my dream is to build a solar raft and, float down the Rideau Canal system here in Ottawa, basically on free energy. But what I already own, which I can use for in the meantime to just kind of suss out this plan, is I have a small rowboat, very small one, up at my parents' cottage. I have a trolling motor, and I have those, deep cycle batteries. So the thought is that I might be able to rig up my solar setup on this small little boat, and then maybe I won't be able to, sail for free, basically, but I should be able to generate enough electricity that maybe at a slow speed I can have unity, right? I can use less than 80 watts or whatever, and I won't get anywhere quickly, but I might be able to move. So these are the kinds of experiments I want to try to do, and the stuff I'll be trying to do before I have my responsibilities kick in, which is going to be working full-time at the college. Another thing is my parents are selling the cottage, and so in the next month or so, if I want to start these solar projects, I need to get down to the cottage and do that. Take you guys out on the lake. How would you like that? And on top of that, I have decided to try to spend more time outdoors. I feel like I've been cooped up in my workshop here. I've been working kind of nonstop, mostly on YouTube stuff for the whole winter. And so this summer I want to get out and about more. So my YouTube channel, Secondary, SE-Con-Dairy, I'll very likely be taking some early morning fishing trips just near the house, like within a half-hour drive of the house. I live, sort of close to the Ottawa River. And so I'll probably be heading down there and doing some fishing. I did buy some lures on AliExpress, so I'll probably do some challenges, like can I catch a fish on AliExpress lures, for example. So I have soft lures, hard lures, and I'm thinking of 3D printing lures. That might be another type of challenge. So I'll be doing like these little, goofing around type videos because I need to get out of the house more. And at the same time, it kind of, I don't know, it makes my trips purposeful, if that makes any sense. I know like very few people are going to watch these videos, but it makes me feel as though my recreation is worth it, which I kind of mentally need, or else I feel like I need to be chained into the basement working on stuff all the time. So yeah, that's coming to a head here. And and about the human malware. So I finally got my booster. I still have long COVID. So especially when I'm stressed out, it flares up and I have difficulty breathing. So I'm also going to be trying to, more or less stay away from people, and being outside is part of that. We don't have any mask mandates now anymore. So it's getting a little bit challenging staying away from people. And I know that with the booster, I should be okay. So I've got the 2 shots, the booster, and I got infected. So that's 4, X immunity. But getting the human malware in December was one of the worst things that's ever happened to me. And the fact that we're here 4 months later, nearly 5 months later, and it's still affecting my life, that makes me want to stay away from people. So yeah, there's that too. And I guess the last thing I want to mention before I sign off, and I need to, edit this thing and get it out, is that coming up next month, there is a maker meetup. Maker meetup here in Ottawa. So I will be attending the maker meetup. I don't think that I have a lot of viewers in Ottawa and the surrounding areas, but I'll let you guys know here. I will be attending, but not in a booth. I will be walking around. I will be wearing my 5,000 subscriber founder shirt with my logo, and I will be carrying PCBs with me, PCB kits. And so if you happen to be in the area and you go to this maker thing, I think it's the 10th, May 10th, I think it's a Saturday. So if you happen to be in Ottawa, May 10th, it's a free event. You get your tickets online. If you see me there and you say, "Are you Dan from Simple Electronics?" I will give you one of these kits that I'm carrying with me. So I don't think a lot of you will be there. I don't think any of you will be there, to be honest, but I will be prepared in case you are. And I might do some coverage of the event as well. I might bring a GoPro, a Zoom recorder, a couple mics, and try to talk to people about their creations and stuff, and try to cover the event. So let me know what you guys think about that. But I think that's it for today. And so let me know in the comments what kind of projects you want to see this summer, because there's more than I can even think about at the moment. And the hope is that I'll get a lot done, so get a lot of videos made. And although they may not be released all at once, they'll get released in due time. So yeah, Thanks for listening, and I hope I'll catch you on the next one. And hopefully I'll have somebody interesting here instead of just me blabbing on. Thanks for listening.